Hi everyone, welcome to week 2 of climate change monitoring in Northwest Territories, where we'll be talking about fieldwork, experiences, safety, and planning when you're going to work in the field. So this part of the video, I'll be conducting interviews with different students, research technicians, research associates, people that are going to work in the field. We hope to learn a little bit about their experiences so that we know what we can expect when we're going to work in the field. So first off, I have Nia Perron, who is working on her PhD with Dr. Oliver Sonnentag, who you would have met last week, and Dr. Jennifer Baltzer, who's an associate professor in biology out of Wilfrid, Laurier University. So Nia's research on tree water usage is both associated with Université de Montréal and Wilfrid Laurier University, which is in the Kitchener-Waterloo area in Ontario. So Nia, maybe you can start us off with telling us what your main duties / main role is when you're going into the field, i.e. what are you doing when you're out there, and maybe a bit about what you're researching. What does tree water usage mean?
Sure, thanks so much, Emma. I'm excited to be here and to share a little bit about my experiences. As a PhD candidate, my role, like Emma said, has really been about understanding tree water use in Northern Canada. So for my research, I'm working at a number of sites that span this range across northwestern boreal forest. So we go from southern, right where the boreal forest starts in Saskatchewan, all the way up to the tree line in the Northwest Territories, just outside of Inuvik. And the whole goal for my project is one of two things. One is to better understand how trees use water. So we have similar species that are growing across this whole range, and we're really interested in questions about whether or not trees use water in the same way across this region. Or are there pretty specific site conditions that make it so that the relationship between trees and water differs at each of these locations? We're also really interested in understanding tree water use from the perspective of these larger ecosystem fluxes. So when we think about a forested space, we know that there's water that comes in and out of the system at all times. And part of that water that comes out actually comes through the trees themselves. So part of my project is about understanding a little bit more about this transpiration or this exiting of water from the trees and what that means for sort of the bigger system.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for giving us some insight on what you're doing out there in the field. So we'll move on to our first question for Nia. So when setting up a successful and enjoyable day in the field, which is really important when we're out there for a while, is there a concept or practice that is really important to you that makes this successful day happen? So examples of this could be maybe really effective communication with the people that you're working with, laying out your plans for the day so you know what to expect, or maybe it's making time for yourself. So what are some of these practices that you do to make sure that you have a great day?
That's a great question. I find that a lot of the times when I'm doing research in the field, I'm not doing it alone. And while I've sometimes been lucky to have people that are there specifically to help me, often I'm with a team of people where we're all there to help each other. So I think one of the best ways to have a successful day, in my experience, is to really clearly talk about what everyone's roles are going to be in the field that day. Also what everyone's expectations are for that day. You know, it's not going to be a successful day if I think we're going to be in the field for 5 hours and the person I'm working with thinks we're going to be there for an hour and a half. So those expectations make a pretty big difference. I've also found that to have a successful day, it works really well when people have a task, people have a role. And I think everyone on the team often has the skills to be able to contribute in some way. So making sure that everyone's skills are being used so that no one's sort of standing around, getting cold, getting wet, that makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. It really helps when you get to use those skills and feel really valuable in the field. And
yeah, exactly.
and know what to expect as well. That's a really good answer. So we'll move on to question 2. So over the course of a typical day working in the field, what is your favorite time of day and related activity or task? So you can be creative with this. It doesn't have to be work related. It can be leisurely as well. So some examples of this could be, maybe it's inputting data from some of the measurements that you took in the field, or having a nice hot coffee in the morning, taking photos of the aurora at night. So yeah, what's your favorite activity, task, and related time of day?
Mine is definitely lunch. Being able to have this moment where it's usually a pause and everyone kind of comes together from their separate tasks to have this moment together and sit and eat. I think that that's such a really nice time. It's also a time when I find that I can ask the people I'm working with sort of questions on, hey, I'm trying to do this. Any tips on how to figure this out or this? So it's a good time for us to kind of collaborate, even if we're working on our individual tasks. I also have to admit, one part of the day that I really like is also arriving at the site for the first time when I haven't been there, because it's kind of like this, I don't know, discovery where you're seeing exactly what's happened, what the condition is, if everything's up and running, and it's just kind of an exciting time. We also often have bear damage or damage from trees that have fallen. So it's kind of exciting to see, okay, what's in good shape, what's not.
Yeah, it's like a mystery, right? Until you get there, and then it's like a surprise. I could totally see that. Yeah, cool. All right. So question 3. This one's more safety oriented. So during what circumstances in the field are you the most safety conscious? And what do you do to sort of decrease these perceived risks? If there's not much you could do in that moment or on the short term, is there something you could do to help in the long term? So an example of this for myself actually is when you're a passenger in a helicopter or a float plane. Another example could be when you're canoeing in a boat and there's a bit of stormy weather. So again, what are the circumstances where you perceive the most risk or where you're the most safety conscious?
Yeah, I think for me, the area that I'm the most safety conscious about has to do with rest when we're in the field. I think that in so many different situations that you find yourself in while doing field work, from driving or hiking into the site or actually doing work at the site, you're going to be put at risk so much more if you're not properly rested and if you're not rested enough to make good decisions. So I think one of the areas that I think it's really simple to be conscious of safety of yourself and the people that you're working with is making sure that you sort of listen to your body and know when it's time to take a little break and when it's time that you can keep going. You know, I think that, yeah, it's one aspect where it just makes everything a whole lot easier. To be conscious of safety. So I think that's one area. And another area would be just making sure that the people who are doing the tasks that they're doing sort of have the appropriate training and skills to do it. A really simple example, but one that I think is important would be driving from site to site. It's important to make sure that the person who's in control of this car has experience driving on, like, in the conditions that we find ourselves in. Also, when it comes to like operating super technical equipment, I think it's important that we know that this equipment can be dangerous. And so the person who either has the experience or has the training is the person taking on that task.
Yeah, we definitely don't want people like operating, chainsaws that have maybe never operated them before and don't want to put them in an unnecessary risk just because they haven't been shown before. Yeah.
And I think that there's often this idea in fieldwork that like we're there to sort of do as much as we can and, show that, hey, I can do X, Y, Z. But it's also just as valuable to back off sometimes and say, hey, I actually don't know how to do this. I need some help, or I need some training. And so I guess also communicating so that the people that I'm working with know that they can say, hey, Nia, I can't do this. Or, hey, Nia, I may be better suited to do this than you are. Let's switch roles.
Definitely. I see that with communicating about the rest as well. I feel like, sometimes you might not want to say, oh, I'm a bit tired. Can we take a couple minutes to take a breather or whatever it is. So yeah, communication about how you're doing with yourself and with others, I think is super important. Yeah. That's a great answer. Okay, so question 4, this one's a fun one. Do you have a fieldwork related story or experience that you can share that has significantly impacted your life in a positive way?
Yeah. So I think for me, one of the main reasons why I decided to continue in education and to do a PhD was because of a fieldwork experience. It was a field course that I had the chance to participate, and it was in northern Greenland. And it was really cool because it was this space that not a lot of people had been to, and it was really beautiful. But at one point, we had a break from all of our field work itself, and we decided to go on a hike. And it was that hike during field work that really cemented for me that I wanted to learn more about northern ecosystems, because it's just so beautiful and so vast, and where there's so much that we don't know about them.
Definitely.
So yeah, so for me, like that hike and having this view of sort of glaciers and ocean and this valley that we were working in, that was really a moment that had a profound impact on me and made me realize that being in spaces like this is why I want to do this kind of work. And yeah, my field work is so fun.
Yeah, because it's so beautiful. That's so cool that it like propelled you to continue the work that you're doing. Yeah, thank you so much for your story. That was awesome. Okay, so question 5. During what field campaign or period of field work did you learn the most technical skills? So skills that you use, whether it's interacting with different kinds of instrumentation, or maybe it could be carpentry skills. So what kind of technical skills did you learn during this period?
Yeah, so I think for me, the time that I learned the most new sort of really technical skills would have been the first summer of my PhD project. So the summer of 2018, we went into the field and I was learning directly from a postdoc in our group and a technician in our group how to do all of the site maintenance that was needed to run these systems. So for our work, we have a number of different kind of instruments, and a lot of them are run either on batteries or on solar panels. So, or the solar systems at least, that include solar panels, but also batteries. So I learned so much about not only how to use these really scientific pieces of equipment, but also how to set up solar panels, a little bit about electrical engineering, which I knew absolutely nothing about. So I'd say that summer I definitely had the largest learning curve. But honestly, it's every single time that I go out into the field with someone new, it always seems like I learned something. I either see it something really technical or just something different about the land and a different way to look at the land that I just never would have seen before. So I love working with other people in the field. I feel like it's always a time to learn something.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Although the technical skills can be a huge learning curve, you're always learning. You might be learning about the people around you or yourself or the land. It's always a chance to learn. And with this project too, I think we're going to see a lot of that, where we're diving into, electrical circuits, which is going to be new for a lot of us. But, learning is great.
And I think one thing that I also realized in these experiences is that people love this kind of stuff, and they love to sort of geek out and share what they know. So it's often a really fun environment to learn because people are so eager to just share all of their knowledge, which is also a lot of fun.
Definitely. And it's definitely well appreciated too.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So question 6. So this is the second last question for Nia. Is there one thing that you wish people could understand about the research and or work that you do? So in the sciences, sometimes communicating what you're doing or explaining to people what you're doing can be a bit tricky. And sometimes some of the messages are lost or people might not understand because the things that we're looking at are so niche and so specific. So is there one thing that you wish people could really understand about your work?
Yeah, I think one thing that I want people to understand is, because I often get this question, it's sort of, okay, why is your research relevant? Why are you doing this? And less so people that say in my research group who understand, but if I talk about it with friends, that's one question I get a lot. So what I really wish was understood about my work is that it's really just one little piece of the puzzle, that my work is really about lending a little bit more information so that we can have a better picture of what's going on a larger scale. So I think that, yeah, that would be the one takeaway, is instead of this really focused look on, okay, you're studying how trees use water, I want it to be, oh, okay, if we understand how trees use water, then maybe we can understand a little bit more about how much water is in the atmosphere and how much water is in the ground and how all of these systems work together. Even though I'm not asking those questions themselves, I just want people to understand that it's sort of, part of this bigger network of knowledge. And that's really how research works. And that's really what's cool about it.
Definitely. And that's what we're really trying to do with this project as well, right? You know, sometimes we might be going out into the field and working with instrumentation that are measuring a really specific piece of information. But really what we should be going home with is the message that we're contributing to monitoring the environment, climate change monitoring in general, and how important that is at the larger scale. So I would say that fits in really nicely with our project as well. Okay, so for our last question, this one's also really fun. What is one personal item that you pack when going into the field that you would never forget or hope to never forget at home? And why does this item make such a difference for you?
Yeah, I have 2.
Okay, that's fine.
One of them Emma knows because she's been in the field with me. But one of them I swear by is a boat strap. To me, it's the best thing because if you're ever just like a strap, like rope that you can tie stuff up, because you would be surprised how much you're carrying in and out of sites and how unbelievably useful that is. But I don't think anyone else feels the same. So my more general piece of equipment is just a good pair of socks, because no matter what, my feet get wet, no matter how hard I try or how good my rubber boots are. So having a really good pair of wool socks that are comfortable and warm, but also breathable is, my number one piece of field equipment.
Could definitely agree with that. Maybe even more than one pair of wool socks.
Yeah.
But that's great. I think that gives people a really good idea of what to expect. Sometimes we are carrying a lot of things to some of these sites, so it's good for people to know that, hey, maybe a boat strap would be a good idea. So thank you. Yeah, maybe. Thank you so much, Nia. That's all the questions that I have today. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck. We'll wish Nia good luck with the rest of her PhD. But that's all for now.
Thanks so much. It's been great sharing a bit of my experience. So best of luck to all of you. And thanks for today.
Yeah, we appreciate it. All right. Bye.